So let's go on to the 4th house. We're moving along pretty well here this time. That's great. We'll have one more time for questions at some point. So the 4th house, we're talking about the 10 p.m. to midnight. And again, I always think it's interesting because that's really, growing up, you know, the curfew time, very common. 10, be home by 10 p.m. Be home before midnight. 10, 12 it's kind of like the idea of lights out, we're all safe and secure. We're all in the home here. Everyone's accounted for the day, so to speak. So we have this idea it's associated with Cancer. So if you're a Cancer, you may relate to this interpretation. If your sun is in the 4th house, you should relate to this interpretation. And of course, if you're a Cancer with the sun in the 4th house, it would be a double whammy. And you wouldn't even be here, you'd probably be at home right now. So the 4th house, as I said, represents the home, the physical structure of where you live. You know, some of us are very attached to our homes, others of us aren't. I can think of multiple people who move, they think nothing of it. Other people haven't moved in decades, right? So it kind of starts telling how focused are you on home, how important is it, and again, not to get too psychological, but it usually describes your early home environment, particularly that of one of the parents. So when you have the sun sitting in the 4th house, one parent generally way overshadows the other parent. And again, why? We don't know that. That doesn't give me that much information. Maybe because the parent's absent, maybe because the other parent's working the whole time, or because they're just withdrawn and the one parent's calling all the shots. So the concept is, generally, again, these are things you can entertain and start thinking about. Okay, the sun's in the 4th house, that means one parent was dominant, and then we understand there's a little lopsidedness going on. So depending upon which parent it is, it can truly affect, it can make a man a little more feminine and a woman a little more masculine, because we have an overdominance of one parent and not maybe an equal input coming from both of them. And really that has nothing to do with divorce. I'm not going to go down that, oh, it's because you're divorced or something of that nature. It doesn't necessarily follow that line, because we can have divorced parents that still have a strong influence coming from both parents. And then we have, so it describes what's going on in the environment. One of the interesting things, I think, particularly about astrology, and I said I was going to mention signs and planets, mainly our focus is on houses today, but the sign on the cusp of the 4th house, or any of the houses, kind of tells you what you were born into, how you were raised, but it doesn't dictate that you stay there. Does that make sense? So the idea you're kind of conditioned in one sense, and yet you might grow up and go, boy, I don't want that in my life. I'm going to work away from it. Think of someone again. Let's just go back. Let's do a little review. The 1st house was, I hope someone can remember. It was about the head, the Aries, how you walk into the room. Let's say you have Capricorn rising. Capricorn rising is a pretty conservative energy, kind of straightforward, and maybe kind of walk in very, you know, straight, certainly not going to come in like this, like here I am. Going to come in kind of nonchalant, walk in. But that's because how the person was raised. They probably were raised in a strict home, or a home with a lot of rules. Maybe they went to private school, wore uniforms, and they were kind of taught that. But it doesn't mean that as now they're 32, they're still coming in the room that way. They may say, I want to get away from that. I want to be more liberal. I want to be, you know, more experimental. So you actually can outgrow, is what I'm trying to say. You can outgrow your signs on the houses. But the sun placement in the houses, you can't outgrow. You can grow into. That's why coming back to this idea that the sun shows what are you growing to become? What are you trying to become? So that one you're working to go up on. Some of the other things in the chart, we can read that's where your background is. So I can guarantee you, if you had a Capricorn rising, you know how to dress. You know what the expectation is. Doesn't mean that you're going to do it once you get into adulthood, but you know how to do it if the situation calls for it. So let's just go back through, that was just a side thing there. Let's come back to sun in the 4th house. The sun in the 4th house, again, what are you aiming to do? Remember, these are the people born between 10 p.m. and midnight. And we're talking about, of course they embrace their home, we know that, so to speak. But they oftentimes are the ones that are nurturing with food and drink. They're the ones that want to offer you a drink the moment you walk into their home. They've got a plate of goodies. They just happen. You know, not they even did it because you were coming. They're the type of people that just have something already fixed. And they want to nurture you. They want to connect with you. They want to make you feel comfortable. So it's a lovely energy, and they go about creating family. And I don't mean biologically, even though that's obviously an option. But when you create family, you just take people in. You have a big dining room table. Sun in the 4th house, you generally have a larger than normal dining room table, compared to how many people are in the house at least. And from there, you start inviting people in. And you like people to drop in, like their family. You might even allow people to come into your home without knocking, because you really are trying to create this feeling of family. And one of the fascinating aspects of the Sun in the 4th house is they're very empathic. Oftentimes when I work with my clients, I describe them, if their Sun's in the 4th, I tell them that, you know what, it's like you're on the, it's like you're in a classroom, kind of like we are today, but that you're sitting in the very back row. And you can hear me, but you also hear what's going in the hallway. You're hearing something else in the background. Now, is that your intuition? Is that spirit talking to you? It represents somebody who's very empathic. They're picking up things that are not openly being said as black and white. So oftentimes we come around people, and that's generally nurturers are. They kind of anticipate. Oh, aren't you thirsty? Oh, are you hungry? You haven't eaten. You know what I mean? They're already ahead of the curve. The Sun in the 4th house can be irritating, because I can walk into the room and they can say, "What's wrong, Mary?" I'm going to go, "Nothing's wrong. I'm fine." And they go, "No, no, no. I can tell. I can tell something's wrong." And then I can go into, I can get defensive, right? No, what are you trying to act like you know how I'm feeling, right? So the Sun in the 4th house people can get in trouble because their empathic ability have them reading into things, and not everybody wants to be read into, right, at all times. So that's the interesting, but it's fabulous as caregivers because they know, okay, maybe I should check their temperature, maybe I should see if the temperature in the room is correct. You're thinking ahead a little bit. But go back to that example, you actually kind of are catching some information that most people might say is undocumented information. You just sense it, you feel it. Speaking about Sun in the 4th house, this is the chart of my husband, by the way. And if you notice, we'll do a quick little lesson here. You'll notice there's 4 planets down there in the 4th house. So this is a very strong placement. So what I just said really gets stronger yet. If you start getting, besides the Sun, you start getting other planets. And yeah, very food conscious guy. Loves to go to the grocery store. I've never, he would gladly take over grocery shopping. He loves to buy food, prepare food. It's one of his strengths. He's very good at it. And he's a very good nurturer, particularly he's a teacher, works with students. So he nurtures, he creates these senses of family. It's not more than a classroom. There's a performance, and so there's trios and quartets, and people feeling like they're a part of these individual groups. So you can see, I give that just as an example for you to see, okay, gosh, how would that look like besides a nurse or besides a mom? How else could a guy be a caregiver? And absolutely.